Okay, good evening, everybody. We have got Cultist Simulator again. This will be, if you're live, obviously a very late start to the evening. And of course, if you're watching on YouTube, thank you very much for sticking with me. I know last week I didn't have a broadcast because of the normal third Wednesday of the month being dedicated to something else. And to be honest, normally today would not be a broadcast day because it is a Canadian holiday, Boxing Day. For some of you who do celebrate Boxing Day, I hope you had an enjoyable one. And I have not been feeling well today at all. So I actually started writing the tweet to cancel the broadcast, but I thought at the very least I would try to do something. I've got quite a bad headache, so I kicked back a bit. Now, unfortunately, none of this has really gotten any better. I think if it was just, I don't know, profound distress or malaise, I could probably get over that. But in this case, I'm basically just not feeling 100% overall. But especially because things turned out on Tuesday to, so there was an Elder Scrolls broadcast recorded, but that was only available on YouTube on Tuesday, and then the sort of the VOD became available this afternoon. I kind of wanted to do my best to at least get back on track. So I think the way I'm going to handle this, beyond this introduction and sort of an apology, I'll do the usual Cultist Simulator, and maybe what I'll try and do is to make it an hour of it'll probably be a little bit more gameplay, and part of this just might be because I'm not as, you know, as bouncy and prone to getting off topic. And I suppose the biggest thing is that if I become too intolerable, it will be a you won't miss that much. How you doing, Mr. Pones? Merry Christmas to you as well. Merry post-Christmas, I suppose now. I believe there's been a new... No, actually the new expeditions were added the last time we were here, but I will do the usual... oh, thank you very much, Mr. Pones. I'm not feeling like God's gift to streaming today, so that's well placed. As always, I like to start off with credit where credit is due. I should actually probably do this more with all of the games that I play, but in this particular case here, this was a case of... this is kind of a case of part of my enjoyment of Cultist Simulator has come from the interactions of the two people chiefly responsible for it, just generally following the game overall. Hello, Captain Shield. Good to see you again as well. So with that in mind, we've got Design, Writing, and Coding by Alexis Kennedy, Production, Marketing, and Biz by Lottie Bevan, UI Design and Coding by Martin Nerukar. It's worth mentioning that a year ago, Martin was very kind in giving a press key for Nowhere Profit, and actually did a nice little Christmas update to all of the visuals. And one of my hopes this year actually was to sort of redo Nowhere Profit as sort of a, you know, 1 year later, what's it been like? But Christmas did not, essentially Christmas got burned up trying to record that Elder Scrolls video, so sorry about that. Oh, we've also got Ragnus Domi here, insert a Mean Girls print screen here. At Wednesdays we play Cultist Simulator. Yes, I am, again, I almost didn't, but I'm incredibly happy that all of you guys have shown up. It makes me feel that, you know, whatever failings I have today for not feeling well, I at least made the right call by giving you folks some giving you folks something to watch. But with that in mind, please do check out Martin's game. It is still available on itch. If you get it on itch, you will get a Steam key for when it's on Steam. I'm not 100% sure if it's on Steam yet. But it's called Nowhere Profit, and if you like sort of card-based games or FTL, it's a pretty good fit. We've got art by Catherine Unger, Clockwork Cuckoo, Lottie Bevan, and Sarah Gordon. Most of these people are actually on Twitter, and they're all a bunch of fun to watch. We've got this lovely music by Mickey Marr Productions, Mary Beth Solomon, Brent Barkman, and Mickey Erb. Audio by Soundcuts. Additional writing by Lottie Bevan, which I sort of suspect... Actually, I can't tell you what this is for sure, but I had long had a suspicion on something. I had a suspicion about the writing, and this one turned out to be right. There's a suspicion on another thing, which I think I put out as a joke at one point, and then after the fact got a little bit of... I don't know if I can call it confirmation, but I've actually waited a while to say so, because now that muddies the timelines enough. But anyways, I don't know if you guys know what the additional writing is, but I'd be interested in knowing if you folks know or have an impression of. Additional coding by Fraser McCormick, Chris Payne, Mark Gagney. Additional design by Callan Porter. And special thanks to Sonia and PK, Matt Hosty, Haley Urias, and literally everyone who's ever sent feedback or a bug report. Thank you. I will admit, Domi, I'm not feeling 100%. I actually was originally going to cancel the stream, but I know Cultist Simulator is very popular, and I didn't get to do the Elder Scrolls vodcast on Tuesday evening because it was still processing on Twitch when I sort of wrapped up. But I did decide to push through it, and I'd try and do at least an hour of Cultist Simulator. So again, I sort of started off by way of an apology for not being 100%, but I will absolutely do my best. Although again, you've all been very lovely. Mr. Pones actually gets onto something, which is, it's unfortunately something that sometimes creates a little bit of a problem for me as a stream. So I really do like playing lots of different things, and the fact that I have sort of dedicated days now is keeping me from being able to play some of the variety that I normally would. On the other hand, these are also some games where I've been given support, either in the form of a press key or, sort of undue attention from developers, a few different things like this. And so there's a trade-off, and it's a trade-off that I'm happy to take. Obviously, if I didn't feel that I was doing the best content I could, well, maybe not the best content I could, but if I was not doing something that I thought worked, and for the people who know and like the stuff enough to show up, if I didn't feel that it would match it, I would obviously change. But one drawback is that if you have a regular thing that you do, a regular game that you play, for instance, it is a lot easier to get noticed and see your channel grow. And, I think you guys sort of know that growth has sort of been a perennial concern. The channel kind of shifts from stagnating to mild growth every once in a while. But it's never, the really big growth periods have been sort of when Cultist Simulator came out and when I was focused on Crusader Kings. So it's nice to sort of have recognition for the fact that the variety is a little bit of a feature. But again, there's a trade-off in that sense, which is you usually can only do that sort of thing really well and be successful with it when you have an existing audience. A really good example here would be, I think Sheriff Eli is a lot of fun to watch, but obviously he was much better known for Grand Theft Auto before before he stopped doing that and got some opportunities to play some other things. And even then, I definitely feel like he has a type of game. Although there are other reasons why I'm not as big as Sheriff Eli. That is definitely some somewhat exalted company that I'm putting myself in. So, anyways, my not feeling 100% notwithstanding, and my insecurities over my role in the Twitch pecking order, let's figure out where we are. I think we'll probably start off with our usual work at the Gaiety. The stage awaits, hot and clean and bare and bright. If I move the moves and step the steps and do what is required, they'll pay me. So I think I am going to do another batch of exploration before too long. We've got a percussagant. We've been going through the Orthos Wood, which I believe is level 3. So once this is done, I think we're going to sort of unload a bunch of Forgotten Chronicles. And then as far as books and whatnot are concerned, really what I need to be focusing on is upgrading my lore, and especially because now that the rewards are not randomized, I might need to start thinking about converting different types of lores into each other. So let's unpause and we'll figure out where we're going with that. And Omnizai, thank you very much. He says you could read the dictionary and you'd still tune in for that based on the voice alone. I mean, the dictionary is very interesting to read on its own. There's, I think it's in the autobiography of Malcolm X. He talks about sort of getting an education through reading the entire dictionary. I have not done that though. So, a light through the trees. There's something up ahead. We've made it through the forest. Good news there. Light in the dark. If I could, what could I be if I could not be not this? Alright, so we promoted Clavette to Disciple. Good news. We seat our mouths to the thunder, we seat our feet to the dance, we seat our skins to the night. We do not cease, we do not cease, we do not cease. Now, I don't think... 21st. Yeah, we are still quite a ways off from... Unless I can't remember all of these different artifacts, so I'm just going to take a quick second. Yeah, we need to find a better heart artifact. So, I think with Madame Bichet we can turn in our manuscript, and then I think we'll try and get some more people. Alright, the stage awaits hot and clean and bare and bright. If I move the moves and step the steps and do what is required, they'll pay me. I might have had an opportunity to do more, but I didn't take it. So let's take a minute here and do secret histories. Actually, that's a really good question, Captain Shield. How was everybody's Christmas? Mine was unfortunately very uneventful, which in one sense I'm kind of happy for, but in another sense I'm a little disappointed that it turned out that way. Ragnastomi says, after that DLC, Heart is now your favorite lore. Yeah, I mean, I'm still very much a full and firm believer in the in Lantern, the Mirror of Glory. But, sorry, just one second. But, I do really find, I find a lot of the Heart writing to be very charming. I think probably the Heart is some of my favorite writing. Who else do we have here? You prefer pretty noisy? Oh, sorry, yes, because you had everybody in Brazil in your house, I think. And Jamie Sam, good to see you too. All right, let's carry on. Oh, I didn't read the thing in the... All right, let's go to the Lodge of the Sage Knight. We've got a subtle fracture, clouds part, walls creak, old wounds ache, a sixth order influence, significant resonances or correspondences. This can be used in some rites to summon minions. Aside from your 8-month-old goddaughter cousin plus your dog, Mom decided to turn on your karaoke box. Oh my. Alright, so I ignored some lore and that turned into fascination. I probably should have been focused a little more on that, but that is the way of these things. Last night, in the great pavilion above the grey sprawl of the Bounds, a woman who once called herself Teresa Galmer sat on gilt-fringed cushions and offered me a horn cup of dream wine. The wine is imaginary, she explained, but the cup is not. To navigate the Mansis, one must understand the distinction. Perhaps one day you'll join me on the pilgrimage, or I'll join you. So here, let us share a secret. And her breath tickled my ear. It is what it is, Captain. Our expedition plans for the next challenge. It'll consume funds. I can add funds now or another follower. I don't think we're running out of anything. Oh no, we're gonna have to punch some watchers. So what have we got here? We've got a ton of edge. We also might have some moth that we can throw towards the problem. I think we will just sit on this for a bit. Let's go back to the white door. Actually, I'm gonna... Nah, we'll still do the white door. I kind of wanted to relax the health a bit, but we'll go at full steam. You sang No Scrubs and it was pretty cool. That's really funny. I've got a friend, the Filipino family, and every time I was there, they would always have karaoke, and they do not play around. And apparently that is just a thing. I don't know if any of you can confirm if karaoke is that big in the Philippines, but I definitely I definitely have some images in my head about about your evening, or rather your Christmas, Domi. Saturday my Christmas is uneventful. Are you getting some gifts through the mail? I have a card through the mail. And I'm buying myself my gifts. The gifts I'm really looking forward to are the... MIT Press does a really wonderful Black Friday sale. Everything in their everything in their store is half off, and that includes the textbooks. So there's some really good examples of sort of these, like, you know, this is the main reference kind of textbooks. So Jeffrey Wooldridge, there's two books by Jeffrey Wooldridge. There's one called Introductory Econometrics, an Introductory Approach. And that one is published by Cengage Learning. That's called Baby Wooldridge. And then there is a graduate level text, and it's not really a first year graduate level text. It's probably a bit more advanced than what you would want to do in a first year. But that one's called the Analysis of Cross-Section and Panel Data. And it's not a light read, I think, as the title might suggest, but it is it's a really good textbook on econometrics. If you need to figure something out from it, it is that is a great place to kind of work through it. But it's like, the way I could describe it, it's like how, you do these like so you have like scholarship. So this character knows Greek, Latin, Sanskrit, and Aramaic, but it's not like when they sit down and so like when you want to translate a book, you sit down and you put some focused study into translating it, and then you read it. And it's a bit like that. It's the same way that, it's not just that you kind of sit down and you casually read, the tome of Unspoken Mysteries on your lunch break. You tend to need to sit down and dedicate some effort. Normally when you read a book like that, you have like a notepad open, so you can work through it yourself. But yeah, anyway, so there's that. There's Thomas Sargent and Lars Lundqvist have this really excellent book called Recursive Methods in Macroeconomic Theory. And there's a new edition that came out this year. So even that is 50% off on Black Friday on MIT Press. So usually, also the shipping is very slow to Canada for some reason. So usually what happens every Black Friday, ever since I found this sale, I will buy them, and I have no idea when they will arrive, but they always do wind up arriving. And so a mystery package shows up one day full of the nerdiest possible books that you could read. There's a couple of other like more computer science-oriented books that I picked up. But that's the gift to myself I'm really looking forward to, which is so lame. I'm sorry, guys. Who else did we have here? No, I haven't visited the Philippines. I've only ever been to Australia, and even then it's long out of... that's really far in the past now. I actually haven't really traveled that much. Okay. I'm certain that my adversary has lodged a copy of their notes somewhere, or elsewhere, with their solicitor, with their superior, or even with a contact in the press. This is troubling. So the way I'm going to deal with that is actually the reason why I summoned the Voiceless Dead, but we're going to hold off on a little bit. We're going to hold off a little while before working on that. It's true. It's lame to go on so much about them. Look closer, closer still, closer. Keep looking closer. Now close your eyes. So that sounds like a moth. Well, part of Australia. So my mom came from a little spot called Nanango. It's a small town. So I would always stay there, but I've visited Sydney. Where else? I've been to New South Wales. I just don't know specifically. Where are some of the other spots that I've been? I've also been to some like attractions and such, but I was really little at the time, so I'm not able to fully account for myself. Let's go back to the Gaiety before I get fired. You can't do more than one fine work of scholarship. Which person do you want to talk about it? Did I miss something on Captain Shield? Nice chill Christmas. Oh no, they're usually alright, other than one person crying because how hard this time of year. Oh, it was something that happened to you over Christmas. I'm sorry to hear that. Captain Shield. Let's go to the Orchard of Lights. Oh, an intensity of radiance. So in one sense that's not bad. Light dews the skin and suffuses the air. But I do need to make sure that I deal with this, otherwise I'm going to get another fascination. The invisible arts, Christopher Lapoli is said to have remarked, are as profitable as macrame, as ethical as tobacco smuggling, and in general as beneficial as roulette. Still, there is always the Orchard of Lights, and indeed the orchard with its glowing fruit and its peaceful mists is a place to be yearned for. Last night I walked there in the peaceful hours of the deep night. Even after walking, I still carry with me a little of the glory of the old sun. So let's collect all of that. First thing I want to do is get rid of the Oh yes, I can, with Fleeting Remembrance. So once my work slot becomes available, that'll be ready before the Intensity of Radiance is done. I'll use some ritual to get rid of that. Oh, very cool, Captain Jill. I don't believe I've been to Perth. If I have, I don't remember it. But again, that doesn't mean a whole lot. I actually had, there was one job application that I needed to do at some point. My research needs erudition. That's because I was combining Forgotten Chronicles. Too bad for me. Their bewilderment is our opportunity. We'll pass in silent secrecy. So in one of the applications that I needed to do, you needed to basically give a you needed to account for yourself for the past 10 years. And also talk about your citizenship. So one of the things that's a little funny about this, there to me was an open question in terms of my citizenship, where I had been told that I do technically have Australian citizenship, but I don't know if that was just my mom was Australian, and I don't know if that was a proper thing or not. And from what I understand, you can only have one or the other. I wasn't ever 100% sure on these things. But when it came time for the job, you want to make sure that you're answering these sorts of things truthfully. So I talk, but as you guys remember from Battlefield, one of the dilemmas I sort of have with my dad is he'll sometimes just say stuff that he thinks I want to hear. So it's sort of, when I talked to him about it, I had to be really careful in terms of how I phrased it, because if it seemed like I wanted to be only Canadian, he'd probably tell me that. And if he thinks that I wanted to have the dual citizenship, he would say, well, that was the truth. And I was just like, the question was phrased specifically, where can I go to find out whether or not I am a citizen or not? So far as I can tell, I am. But that then raises the question to me about what the deal is with me voting in the elections, because I understand that there's a penalty if you don't vote. And I certainly have not been voting in elections since I became eligible. So, yeah, it's tricky. But so far as I can tell, apparently I am also Australian. I felt all their eyes upon me. Afterwards, I received a gift from an admirer, a little too personal for me to feel comfortable, but I can sell it in the second-hand market. Okay. So I need to use the lantern influence. Obviously, well, you know what? We can... Oh, wait, I can't put more than one influence in. Okay, well, let's take the icon from St. Agnes. And there's no way that I'm going to be able to put Forge towards this. I need a lot. But I should be able to bring in a hint. A hint was once a living mortal and then a dead one, and now it's something else. Their summoning requires lantern for the light, which draws them to the mansis, and edge for the striving that they've endured in mirrors. Okay. I've increased my knowledge of the secret histories behind the one we know. That was unexpected because I didn't have the erudition, but as it turns out, random numbers don't always... They're not always hostile to you in this game. Just frequently. Okay. So what do I want my study to be now? I'm just taking a minute here to figure out... So here's sort of the dilemma that I'm running into on this. I would ideally like to have one of each of the lores, but it is also something. So we've not gotten past the Stagdoor's Riddle because I don't have the required lore. So normally what I would want to do here, if I wanted to advance, I would upgrade my Red Secret to make a Legion Incantation, my Smith Secret to an Ardent Orison, and then with those two, I would turn those into the level 3 lore. Same thing with the knock and the edge, by the way. But because I've sort of put this, not exactly rule, but because I've sort of wanted to have this nice layout of all the lore and to sort of know everything, I kind of, I don't know, like I do sort of want to hold back and see what kinds of research that I can get done. The other thing, of course, I can try subverting lores and such, but for now, if I'm going to upgrade lore, it would be the Thunderous Secret. And the biggest thing is because I don't have... So I think I'm going to hold off on upgrading these ones for the moment, and because every other upgrade that I would want to do would largely be an unnecessary one. So essentially I would take the Thunderous Secret, that would upgrade to Words That Can Walk. The Words That Could Walk would be upgraded to a Waking Chant, but using 2 Waking Chants would consume them. I think what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to hold off, and I'm just trying to think if there's something else I can do with the study that will help me out. One of the reasons why I want to avoid doing these other bits of study is you'll notice that I'm a bit shy on reason, and that's, in this case, I've run into a bunch of things that are making demands on it. So I could obviously try to go for the Glimmering. I can't upgrade that. Oh, actually, that's one thing I might try. Okay, so I lied. I am going to use reason. I'm going to boost up my erudition and see if we can do something about the scholarship. So Yeah, that's kind of where I'm going with that, Domi. I think the expeditions will eventually get me the lore that I need. All right, patron, we can learn from each other. So we've got a peculiar rumor, some mystique, and delightful sacrament, which was what I used to find them. So the peculiar rumor will be something that we use with the exploration. We've got the composure. And let's go back to the white door, I think. But yeah, so the I'm actually not 100% sure on how the new. I need to talk to Adim to get the lore in. I'm not 100% sure how the new expeditions go in terms of what books and what lore you'll get, but it would seem weird to me that we're totally, we're totally out of luck with the shift to the new system, but we'll see. All right, I've received currency of the secret world, and my patron has let tantalizing information slip. So there's some erudition, which is sort of on brand for me at the moment. And then as far as talking is concerned, let's try and dupe some more people into the cult. One reveals, one conceals, one reveals. Low proceed to which I must learn, or to proceed, I think. I must learn a lesson of concealment. And the memory of crows. Okay. This is a great oak where the masked crow once roosted. Lightning has split it head to heart, and the tree is charred and rotting. It squirms with finger-length worms. Something glints dully in the swarm of dead roots. A root coils around the egg of an egg of lead the size of a child. Perhaps it was once plated with another metal. Once, but the weather has removed all trace of the coating. After a struggle, the halves of the egg come apart to reveal its contents. So, let's get everybody back to positions first. So Sylvia is a moth follower. Doesn't look like a moth follower, but she is. Notoriety. My delightful percussagant, my hint, voiceless dead, which I'll be using for the evidence. So we've got a dappled mask. In the forest where the moon couldn't go, the boughs of the trees were woven together like bandages or lovers. The moon might change herself to an ant or a bird or to her sister, but the forest would not yield to her penetrations, no matter her caresses. One day we came with our scissors, and we severed the branches until the moon and the blood dappled the rotting leaves on the forest floor. We've got in the mountains as upon the plain. In the mountains as upon the plain, there may not be a path where none has passed. A work by Ngajala of Lagash. And this is written in Vak, a tongue that is not spoken in this world. So, I'm gonna have to work on that. We've got Lethe. A dark and syrupy liquor favored in unnamed forest villages. The tongue and the eye, and now we begin. Forget the name, forget your skin. And a whispering amulet. It knows what I desire, or I imagine that it does. 2 moth and 2 heart. So, not exactly the sort of stuff that we needed at the moment, but that's sort of the way these things go. So let's take our peculiar rumor, fill out the ranks. I suspect that at the end of the story, I may find someone who will hear what I have to say. And obviously our friend the percussagant will vanish. You keep confusing your edge and moth followers. Well, I mean, Sylvia, it's obviously the scar sort of carries some implications. The hinter do not indulge themselves with showy entrances. A living gaze will shatter them. I know it's here, and that's enough for now. So we'll put the icon back. Chiliarch's lesson. Got a second hint. And we've read whatever is at hand. So, nothing I can do about the VAC manuscript at the moment. So let's think a little bit about... So there's my work, there's my study. I think I need to do my time at the Gaiety Theatre. In 6 seconds I'll be able to heal myself. So let's spin out another erudition. Eldridge looks like another Mothfaller. Let's find Eldridge. Yes. I can sort of see Eldridge. I mean, if I associate scars with... I think it's because Eldridge and Sylvia sort of have very similar sort of character to their images. I thought you were asking about Counter-Strike Domi. I'm like, well, I have played it. I just... What? Shame on you folks. Oop. Could have used that Forgotten Chronicle, but we get Fascination instead. Last night, in the billowing blue of the lodge of the Sage Knight, I sat on velvet cushions and watched two dead contend with shining swords. They came with the place, says the woman who rules here now, the one who called herself Gallagher. I was not the Sage Knight, if that's what you're wondering. He went higher into the mantis, long before I came here. My attention has drifted. The swords sparkle like falling water, and the dead move like dancers. Okay. Let's deal with our affliction first. And in this case... Oh, I do have some spare vitality, so we'll run that. And steps surrendered. Without footsteps to follow, who will know our destination? I wish so very much to go. Alright, I have grown as dark as I ever will. Shadows are my company, and my footfall is a whisper. I wear a ring set with jet, but I keep the stone turned inwards, in my palm invisible. This card will allow you to win a change victory if you upgrade it enough. Devote enough efforts to your dances, and you'll find the next step. So, aspect the forms of change. Each time I change, I leave something behind. Desire... The new form. I am coming to know a dance that began beneath the mountain pines of the dry land. Okay. So I think if we chat with Sulochana, we will get our next destination, but I'm not going to do that quite yet, just because I've got other uses for each of the verbs at the moment, so... Yeah, I don't think your English is very broken. At least I've not been in a state to notice it, so... Okay, well, looks like I'm getting restlessness whether I want it or not. Dusty facts have come clear in my brain, for now at least. I think we'll probably combine the two youngest into an erudition for an upgrade. An unpromising address, but a promising resident. Rhaenyra, an acquaintance. Rhaenyra has been found not guilty 3 times in 3 separate jurisdictions. She will likely never be found guilty of anything. You might be able to recruit this acquaintance as a follower. So notoriety is something that I'll need to deal with in a little bit too, but obviously getting new recruits in is the best. Hey, Lady Dow, it's great to see you again. I will admit I'm not feeling 100% today. I've got a bit of a headache, which is sort of starting to sort of retreat. I did not plan this well at all. I'm gonna need to... I think I will paint this voiceless dead to keep it. And let's put in the extra passion. So tonight they'll notice that. But yeah, so I'll probably be a little bit shorter, which makes me feel a bit bad because obviously it's delightful to have you in the channel here. But I hope you're doing well, Lady Dao. Okay, Little Wars, Great Intrigues, Cryptic Priesthoods, and Mystic Crimes, all past. All past now, but what traces did they leave? It does mean a lot, especially on a day when I was thinking of canceling the cast. It does actually mean a lot when you guys come in and say such nice things, because it definitely... It's sort of knowledge that happens that definitely keeps me from being too ready to, you know, to bump the cast from my schedule, for better or worse. Well, that's very nice. That's very nice of you, Lady Di. Actually, I've been referring to a couple of clips that that Johnny did, which had you featured inside of them. And then I am going to be doing... I'm trying not to spoil the surprise. I believe it is actually the last game that I saw you play. I'm going to be doing a game very similar to that. So it's timely. I don't know if I'll get it done before the end of the year, unfortunately, but we'll see. With that in mind, by the way, I do still owe you guys a nice celebration for hitting 2,000 followers. I did hold it off for a while because there was definitely a period where I was losing a lot of followers as well as gaining them, but the losses have sort of, at least are matched by new people following. So with that in mind, I still need to do the celebration, and it's just a matter of finding the time, because I do kind of want it to be a big special thing. So the original plan was to try and do that before the end of the year, but if that's unlikely to happen, if I want to turn it into a big long thing, but I will try to do that early on in the year. So the one where you donated $1 million, that, and the one I think it was playing like Terra or something like that. And I was making a joke about like your anatomy classes, just in terms of like getting all the connections between the parts wrong. And he just like, he has this wonderful moment where he sits and thinks and realizes that all of the different actually, okay, you know what? Sorry to do this, guys, but Johnny Big Time really is a funny broadcaster, and I didn't get to shout him out last time on Stellaris. By the way, I'm sorry, Domi, the Stellaris cast was a decent one. It didn't... I was not feeling 100% during that either, so I probably am a little more unfair to it than I should be. Unfortunately, our founder and CEO died, so there's that. But other than losing our CEO, we're in good shape. All right. I have clipped way too many Johnny moments. But yeah, so I didn't get a chance to clip him or to show him last time. So this is gonna be my opportunity to sort of make up for the last time I didn't show him. I like the music, but I gotta... So here's there's some background to this. Basically, Lady Dao was talking about some of the classes that she was in, and it was like anatomy and physiology or something like that. You'll probably be able to say it's like A and something, right? But anyways, the thing that is hard. Yeah, neither did I expect. I have no idea what this is. AMP? Okay. So the trick about this clip is normally to get it, you have to see it twice. So what you need to keep in mind is this thing that Johnny says really quickly is something I've written in chat. And what you want to focus on is the specific things that he's saying in terms of the individual connections that are being made. The thing that really sold this for me is definitely his reaction at the end, just this long pause and then the penny drops. So.
To the class where you sing the song, the hip bone sync to the wrist bone, neck bone sync to the knee bone, ankle sync to the nose bone, and all that. Same B1. Good job, laid down. Nice recovery.
You don't get it, do you?
We're headed underneath the Sinestral Manor. Get ready for soldiers corrupted by the vampires and the ghosts of 1,000 nightmares.
I just realized after reading Chalk's message that all of the connections are completely fucking wrong.
The basement. Easy, right?
I just reread it and I was like, wait a second.
Then it gets harder. There's a secret temple in the basement. That's where they keep the device that's been driving everyone insane.
So I have no idea if that's funny to the rest of you, but that's one of the last times that I've been in a chat with Lady Dow. And I had a great time of it. But yeah, it's ruined a little bit if you don't get to see the chat, because I basically did. I'm sure you've all heard this song where like you do all the different connections and all of that. But it's one of the reasons why I love keep kind of returning to Johnny's channel, is just because he has got a wonderful sense of humor, and he's definitely not afraid to not take himself too seriously, which I think is always an important trait to have. And that clip of mine, oh, the one from Titan Souls. Yeah, I know exactly which one you're talking about, Lady Dow. Were you thinking about the clip from Johnny, Domi, or are you thinking about the Titan Souls clip that Lady Dow's talking about? Yeah, I'm sorry, Jamie Sam. It's definitely a clip that you need to sort of... The thing that I love, actually, once you know that there's a moment of realization, is watching him and seeing... You can actually see him look in chat and then see the moment of realization again. Anyways, guys, let me know what clip you want, and I'll be sure to put it inside of chat before the end of tonight. Ah, okay, it was the Johnny one. I did just close the window, but I should be able to get it back. Recently... There you go. And the Titan Souls one I'm going to need to dig out, but you should be able to click on my profile clips, and there will be the... Oh, wonderful, Lady Dow. You can share that in chat if you'd like, because I know a couple of other people would like to see it. Okay, so I wanted to keep the Voiceless Dead kicking around. It's possible... Well, hang on. So it says come with me. Let's... I'm gonna risk this. Okay, so I want a quick idea of what I'm up against for... So I need 4. I've got 2 and 2 right now. There's an outside chance I can make this work. Just trying to think. I'm gonna do one more reason, just because I've got 16 seconds after that. My clip needs to be submitted to one of those perfect time. It was not luck, it was all skill, Lady Dow. It's a little unfair to say I'm no further along the path of change. I did just to just get the last one, but... Alright, sick room grows close and stale. Time to get up. I should probably be doing something with that dream, so let's go... Oh, I should be getting rid of the fascination, but I don't have anything... Alright, so instead what I'm going to do is I will go back through the white door. I'll wait till this turns to dread, then that'll cancel out the fascination, and maybe the painting will give me what I need. Oh, well, so much for the... Alright, just in time. So let's do... I can never remember how I'm supposed to... I think it's talk with the voiceless dead. Give them the evidence. There we go. Yes. Good news. So I'm going to get another restlessness. I've got dread now, so now I can't ignore this restlessness. I'm going to do... I've got 47 seconds. Nope, you know what? I'm going to go for the painting instead. So let's take that. We will throw all of my reputation at the problem. I'm just going to try and let this one tick down a bit. The song was Rhapsody in Blue. Good ear. This should have an impact. Also, you never know, this might be living. Okay, so I'm painting the restlessness out, and we can move on to... I need to be a little quick on the draw with my study as well, but we should be able to combine this erudition into something. I could spend some money for better paints, or perhaps I could find more exotic pigments. I think just the paint for now. Alright, this place merits closer investigation. Fermier Abbey. Robert Fermier has spent much of his unsavory fortune on the endowment of this monumental forest-crowded abbey, amongst disliked visitors. Their ways are not exactly orthodox. They celebrate a certain harvest festival with unsavory vigor. So, we will continue on until we've got as many level 3 destinations as we can. There's another restlessness that I'm going to need to contend with. That time I will have to sort of leave it to chance as far as the cabaret is concerned. And in 17 seconds I'm now going to need to contend with fascination. So the real question is there a good way for me to deal with this at the moment? I don't have any dread to knock it out with, and I don't think I'm going to be getting any sort of memories. So, sorry to ask, but can someone resend the link? Oh, yeah. Go nuts. Actually, I bet, thank you for doing that, Captain Shield. I bet if I do this, it'll actually say what the clip name is. Maybe not. Alright, well, both of those clips should work, so sorry about that. Okay, the words contain knowledge, and now I contain it. It's a little like theft, and a little like feasting, and a little like the progress of an infectious disease. So we will save this erudition by combining it. More old and happy far-off things. Thank you for the host, Captain Shield. My recent work has accrued modest fame. My latest paintings have been reviewed well. So, glimmering, lots of mystique, a bit of notoriety for my trouble. Okay, want to keep my job, so we'll start with that. With luck, I'll be able to throw the restlessness into the Gaiety Theater. The funny thing is, I don't actually need to worry about the bleak thoughts anymore. What I do need to worry about is the fascination. What a shame. That extra erudition really would have helped me there. But the Sun in Splendor, the Hour who once ruled the Mansus, was known to walk in the orchard before his terrible division. Sometimes his remnants walk here still. Sometimes I see the chilly radiance of the Menascate through the trees, or the chillier radiance of the sun in rags. Were they to come upon me, it might be my end, but to see them in the distance is the gift of insight. I think the Mansus gives me about as much as I could hope for most things, but I definitely am much more conscious of the times it doesn't give me what I need. Alright, just a little too late on the fleeting remembrance, and that's probably on me for using up that dream, but that's fine, because what I'm going to wind up doing here, we'll take this restlessness, we'll turn that into a dread, and that should hopefully address the problem. I await word. So we'll see if we can get rid of the... If we don't get rid of the evidence, that's particularly nasty for me, because we do have some notoriety. But my minion has returned, the evidence has been destroyed, and I am a little safer. So that's good news there. The challenge, of course, is that I don't think I have enough mystique to keep me going until one of these notoriety gets picked up by the wary detective. So I need to think a little bit about how I'm going to handle that. But in the meantime, let's get some commissions. Actually, I probably should just be recruiting people like the Hanger-On and Rhaenyra, but... Alright, and there's some vitality in case I get sick, I suppose. We've got the Vanderschaft Collection, a crumpled little museum in a provincial town, long closed to the public since an outbreak of a peculiar rapture in the room where they keep the pressed flowers. Only the very curious would ever pay attention to the place, and its close-warded storeroom of ill-omened treasures. So I'm okay with this dread, because that'll hopefully nullify the effects of the fascination. But in the meantime, let's keep going for Forgotten Chronicles. And he wants a lantern commission. Okay, so if I'm out of things to do for work, I can work with that. In the meantime, let's bring some people into the club. Okay, I'm a listen package of flesh and blood. We'll take that. We'll dance the restlessness out here. And oh, so I've got a big erudition now. I think I'm just gonna run with these as well as I can. Unfortunately, I think this might expire before I get what I need, so I felt all eyes upon me. Afterwards, I received a gift from an admirer, too gaudy for my tastes, but I can sell it on the second-hand market. So one dilemma too is I used to have 2 collections of essays, and I used them rather carelessly. So life has become a bit more difficult for me as far as getting that work done. But in the meantime, let's think a bit. Because I like some erudition, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to fulfill the commission for Dr. Redeem. He needs, what, level 6. So, and we'll chuck a couple of reason in there. So the idea here is that because I'm invoking Lantern, there's a small chance that I might be able to get some erudition, at which point I could combine that and upgrade it, and then I have the chance to upgrade my my skill here. it's an outside chance, but in this case, I'm just sort of trying to stack things up in such a way that they will improve. You know, this is the best possible outcome for me. You know, given. So I guess the idea about this will be the same whether it's, you know, Stellaris or Off-World Trading Company, or actually I guess Off-World Trading Company doesn't really have a lot of random number generation, but the idea here is that, you know, an individual roll on a random event, you can't really do too much to predict it. I mean, with that in mind, there is a clip in, you know, in my videos that has me describing exactly this type of strategy, and it turns out perfectly. So, but basically, you can never, like, so if you sit down and you play like Civilization, and actually I think this is specifically a story Sid Meier has told, which is that, you know, you'll do these battles, and I don't need to tell this Sid Meier story. Basically, you're always going to feel like the world is out to get you. So if you have a 51% chance and like it doesn't turn against you, it's like, but I had 51%. Or like, and of course the higher you get. So like if you've got a 90% probability, and you do a whole bunch of trials, and it could even be that like one time in 100 that it's failed. You know, you've done 100 trials, and this is the first time that it's failed for you. You're still gonna, but it was a 90% probability event. It's like, yeah, but you know, we don't ever think the right way about these things because we're invested in the game, and generally we feel like the game is out to get us if the random numbers don't work in our favor. But one of the things that you can sort of do is, and this is one of the ones where, like, sometimes if you play something like I'm not a big Hearthstone player, but sometimes you get these claims of things like, oh, pay to win, you know, this game, you're not going to enjoy it if you don't spend money on it. And sometimes that's true. Like, I get a little annoyed when it's clear that there is a card which is just objectively better than mine, which has been, you know, unleashed in some new expansion or something like that. It's largely why I don't play Hearthstone. But on the other hand, like, people aren't getting to the tops of tournaments because they just happen to be really lucky draws. The best that you can hope for, and this is essentially what a deck building game is you structure things in such a way that you create as many opportunities for things to work to your favor as possible. So for instance, if I'm always focusing on erudition, and I make sure that while I'm focusing on erudition, I make sure that I get as many of the lantern things done as I can, either through study or work or what have you, then all of a sudden I'm going to happen to notice a proliferation of those times where I just happen to get, the erudition that I need. And in that sense, it actually does a nice little job of inverting that really negative tendency, which is I stop complaining about RNG in games a lot, and I tend to just be a little bit more like, oh, that was very lucky. And part of that is just because I've structured events in such a way that there is the possibility of a lucky break rather than just sort of really, you know, needing to bank on that one unlikely event that comes up. So essentially it's the same thing, it just happens to be a different framing that winds up working a little bit better for me. Cultist Simulator is maybe not the best example of that, but hopefully the point is made. Let's go back to the Lodge of the Sage Knight. Oof! That was unlucky. And I did read this before. I'm technically at the 1 hour mark, so I did say I was going to finish after that. But let's try and hit sort of a. I'll try and find a natural close. Maybe like if we finish off our existing Forgotten Chronicles. I'm sorry that I'm not I'm not doing a really elaborate stream today. It's just I need to recuperate. But it's not over yet, so just giving fair warning. Okay, in terms of, I'm just trying to think if there's something that I can do in terms of dreaming that isn't going back to the white door, but makes a whole speech about how maybe we shouldn't. That's definitely not where I was going with that, Domi. I think you have a very fair... Mance is like, lol, want some fascination? Yeah. Well, that was the big one too. Like, so one of the ways you can sort of game the Mansus is like when I have fascination up and I'm like, ooh, I might lose the game because of this. I probably shouldn't be going through the white door because of the possibility of getting the fascination. On the other hand, there's a lot of different ways that I can get dread, which I haven't taken advantage of because I want to play in a particular way. You'll notice I haven't killed anyone in this playthrough yet. The Chateau Reveline. The favorite stories of the Comte de Reveline claim that they descended from the first Sun King. Other stories have them prowling the forest in wolf shape. They are long gone. Their rotting chateau remains. Not all of its malignities have been uncovered. So I'm always very sorry to remove the last piece of lore, but there's going to be some ways that I can get the new one. So. Oh no, you didn't miss the point. Yeah, no, it's I think it's more so the idea. So like it's an aspect of it, but the thing is that this works a lot better if you're thinking about games where, like for me, it's really the best examples I can think of are strategy games where, you know, let's say that there's some random draw that's taken during an individual fight. Now, okay, actually, here's the better way to think about this particular one. If I do a given coin toss, you know, it's a 50-50 chance. If it's if I'm relying on 3 coin tosses, you know, each of those individual coin tosses have a 50-50 chance. But it would not be beyond comprehension that we play a game and you win the coin toss all 3 times. And so one of the ways in games where you are relying on the probabilities a lot, what you can do is if you sort of know that on average... Okay, actually, here's the better way to think about it. You play like you're running a casino. So you know that from the point of view of probability, you're going to win more times than you lose. But the catch of this is that if you only do one trial, anything can happen. And so one of the things that makes a casino such a profitable enterprise is that you have tons of people coming in. You have them constantly playing and replaying. And so the trials keep going and going and going. And all of a sudden, the actual outcomes tend to reflect what the probabilities are. Obviously, as you increase the number of trials, it's going to reflect that chance. So if you happen to know that you have the upper hand in terms of these random encounters, you sort of want to maximize the number of times that you're doing these random encounters because you know that or at least you want to build a strategy around that because you know most of the time you're going to win those. And again, obviously you don't the one thing you want to avoid in that particular case is betting everything on this one roll because you can never really know what's going to happen on that one roll. You might get really unlucky, but it's also very unlikely that, you're going to have 10,000 attempts on this. This is, another good example of this would be like XCOM, where, you go and you build a strategy around locking somebody down and getting a flanking shot on them. And it could just be that one Hail Mary shot that you really needed didn't turn out. Obviously, it's still a really good idea to maximize the number of times that you get a flanking shot, even potentially at the risk, when you're risking your agents, because generally in that game I feel like the probabilities are sort of weighted towards the aliens. Like if you play safe in that game, generally you're not going to do as well as if you go for that flank. So it's in terms of the Mansis, you're only ever going to get a certain number of outcomes, and so what you do is you sort of prepare yourself around those. But really what I was focusing more on was just in these particular situations where it would be nice for me to get another erudition, I could do that Lantern Commission at any given point, but I choose to do it now when I know I'm looking for erudition, because I allow myself the possibility of getting that one lucky break. It may never happen, but it's a certainty that I won't get it if I don't do anything Lantern related. Hello, Eyes of Sin. I'm probably going to be wrapping up soon, unfortunately, so but thank you for stopping by. But yeah, sorry. I don't. Yeah, please don't feel like you're under some kind of like. I'm beginning to wonder if I'm just a really unreasonable person. There's not going to be like a test at the end of this to see whether or not you got it. If I just wanted to sort of clarify that I was not trying to defend the Mansis. Well, I was mildly defending the Mansis, but I wasn't like investing a lot into it. I had a fleeting remembrance which I probably could have used to kill that fascination. I just wasn't thinking at the time. Oh well. Okay, so this thing's definitely going to go away in 52 seconds, and I didn't get a lantern pop-up. I might get a lantern pop-up in 1 second. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I need 4. Ah, that's a real shame. I am going to wait the 1.7 seconds. Wait a minute. Just trying to think of okay, I'm going to wait the 1.7 because I'm not going to lose too much one way or the other. We'll see if Lantern pops up. It doesn't, so in this case I can make a plan around that. Essentially, I know that I'm going to lose this erudition now, which is not the end of the world. So I'll go back to work. By the way, Eyes of Sin, you were mentioning some streaming plans. Are you any closer to them? Because I'm sure there's some people here who would love to see you do your thing. So I think it's likely I'm going to get rid of this notoriety. I think it's very unlikely that I'm going to get rid of all the necessary mystique. I'm tempted to go for the restlessness, to be honest. But in this case, I think I'm going to go back to the Orchard of Lights. Okay. So I need to make sure that I summon something off of that, otherwise I'm going to be in some serious trouble. Okay, is there anything that I want to do with my dreaming? No. So we will go straight back through the white door. So the best one for me... Oh, the world as it is. Mirrors are calm, the sun is steady, the glory recedes. I am sane, if that means anything. No fascination drives your visions. It's over for now. I misunderstood how that worked. I thought that it would have another consuming state, which would pick up that fascination. So that's a bit of relief for me here. My hope here is that I'm going to be able to run this mystique long enough to take up this notoriety. If that happens, I think I'm going to send Clovette in to deal with the notoriety. are back to the unnumbered stones. Megaliths placed in obsessive, inerrant rows by priest casts long dead. Time has long erased the original bloodstains, but on moonless nights, the locals supplement what remains. Hidden chambers might guard hidden treasures. So, you found all the expeditions on the continent, although you can find and visit the stone several times, which is good news. What I'm going to do here, so we're obviously going to be waiting for Mantis creatures to take to the exploration sites. So what I'm going to do here is, I think what I'm going to do is start looking at my forbidden epics, and then we'll maybe have a chat with Sulochana. These are the stories that have been forbidden and the ones apt for us to read. Sorry, those stories that have been forbidden are the ones most apt for us to read. William Gore. And looks like we got a question. So Jamie Sam says, Chalk, what type of content would you like to see more of on Twitch? What do you think are some of the unexplored types of content on Twitch? It's a good question. So this will be a self-interested one, but I mean, the sort of stuff that I do is, so I would like to see, it would be nice to see somebody who does something a bit like what I do sometimes with things like, let's say, Battlefield, or even Cultist Simulator, to be able to take some of my, academic or my professional background and be able to relate that for gaming, or just something that's a little bit more about sort of engaging with sort of the themes of the game. And the reason why I say I'd like to see more of that on Twitch, like, it is self-interested because obviously if there is a culture around that, or there's a, even if there's like one big figure, it means that more people will be coming into that sort of thing. And that sort of lifts all boats. That wouldn't, I mean, there might be somebody who does this already and, it hasn't stopped you folks from coming back. But it would be neat to see people, so like, it'd be kind of fun to see somebody who really knows their subject very well to engage with some of the ideas behind the game. I would like to also see a little bit more about, so I personally would like to see a little bit more on game development. I know there are game dev streams, but I'll put it to you this way. I don't, at least in the game dev streams that I've seen, I don't quite see the same thing as what's happening in Weather Factories. I don't quite see the same thing as what's happening in Weather Factories, like YouTube videos and their Kickstarter videos, for kind of talking about the Cultist Simulator roadmap. I do see some people doing programming and stuff like that, but it's not... I think it runs into the same problem that I have when I was doing those writing streams, which is sometimes when you're in the middle of the activity, it's hard to sort of describe everything that's going on. I remember the last time that I did so this is one that actually came up on Twitter again, that one about game prices. It's understandable that people will come in and they'll say, oh, what, you think that a game's price is equal to its quality? That's real stupid. Like, why do you get paid to do this? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And like, yeah, it is a really dumb thing. And if I was arguing that, I probably would be rightly questioned for, my professional credentials, but that's not what I'm arguing. And I maybe, while I'm writing the article, don't want to explain for the 10th time that I don't think game price is equal to game quality. And then the EA article, somebody said is like, oh, same thing. It's like, you think a game being financially successful means that it's good? And I'm like, well, so in the interest, we're basically done with Cultist Simulator, by the way. So for those of you who don't like me going on my rants, this will probably be a good time to vanish. But hey, Paper Dupless. But yeah, the EA one, they're saying, these games are financially... Like, what the EA article actually says is that, it's common knowledge that people don't like EA. And yet, in the face of this common knowledge, the game continues to be making more money. It's spending... Basically, in terms of what it's spending on the games, it is making more than its peers. In terms of Metacritic, it is doing at least as well as and usually better than its peers. And its workforce, at least as indicated from Glassdoor, seem to think that it's a pretty good place to work at. So in that context, I think it's quite fair to talk about the amount of money that it's making. Because I think also, like, I do want to do a blog about sort of measurement and how you can sort of use data for things. Like, the fact of the matter is that nobody forces people to buy games, and you can only really get away with fooling people once. If you can, like, it's just not that credible that game developers are constantly successfully duping millions of people into buying their quote-unquote bad products. So in that sense, I would sort of reasonably say, well, these things seem to be financially successful, so if they're really as bad as you say they are, like, how do we account for the fact that people seem to be buying more of them rather than less of them? And in that sense, I actually think it's very fair to say that financial success is an indicator of some kind of quality. I think if it was the only measure, then we could replace top 10 lists with just, financial statements. But the fact of the matter is that, so essentially what do you know from the amount of money that a game makes? Well, you can get some indication in terms of how many people, because obviously, especially for a new game, you tend not to have lots of tiers of pricing, but you get a rough idea of how many people were willing to give up a certain amount of money in order to play that thing. Now, in the opening weekend, like for a movie, this probably isn't a great indication of quality because nobody's seen it. Like, it's the first time people are experiencing it. So this is probably as much of an indication in terms of things like community management and the amount of hype that's built for things and all of that. But after that initial release, once everybody's able to look at it on Twitch and everybody's able to look... So this is a great example in terms of what happened with Cultist Simulator, actually. Like, when it came out and it appeared on the top 10 on Steam, that's when you started to see... that was when it first came out, too. But, like, there's a somewhat negative reaction to the game. Like, there was sort of this nice little swell of positive reviews. Everybody seemed to really like it, and then there was sort of a hit of these negative reviews, and part of that came from the fact that the game is obviously very niche, and so it's not going to appeal to everyone. So what do we take from that? Do we take the people who didn't like the game and say it's not a good one? Do we take the people who are devoted to the game, kind of like me, and say that it's a good one? Obviously, if I were to measure it on the basis of sales, I think it's fair to say that Cultist Simulator is successful, and I think that its financial success reflects its underlying quality. But there's other evidence that I can bring to suggest, the quality of Cultist Simulator as a game. What I do think would be a reasonable appeal to somebody who dislikes Cultist Simulator, though, is to say it's like, this game is trash, nobody would ever like it. I'm like, okay, well, this thing has sold rather well, and more people seem to, keep on watching videos for it and that. And in that sense, it's perfectly fair to appeal to it, because if somebody's saying nobody wants this thing, then you can immediately turn to the people who, with more or less full knowledge of what they're getting into, have given up money in order to get it. So, you need to be careful in terms of what you're specifically claiming, but I actually think people's tendency to say that you can't use financial success to measure anything are trying to oversell what is a very defensible position, which is to say that money isn't everything. So, sorry, let me just take a quick minute here and catch up with everyone. That'd be so cool. Imagine the places that you could reach. Twitch is not that famous of a platform. Yeah, I mean, people are doing educational stuff on Twitch. It's just, it would be nice to see a little bit more of it. It would be nice to see somebody who had a broad appeal, but was willing to sort of go deep on some subjects to do a broadcast. But, oh, hey, Jim the Eternal. We're actually probably wrapping up before too long. I'll try unpausing and doing a little bit more because I know Eyes of Sin came in as well. But yeah, I don't know. Like, so the specific thing that somebody was complaining about was the EA article. So that was somebody who just really doesn't want to believe that EA is like. They want EA to always be the worst possible thing in all cases, and any opinion that does not involve EA becoming, being listed as the worst company is obviously flawed because, they've got a strong prior, and anything you say to the contrary is heresy. Tonight, I sense an opportunity. Tonight, I could attract attention if I cease to hold back, if I commit myself more fully. I'm wondering if it's something about the heat in here that's driving the headache, but yeah, once I'll actually, while seeing as I'm relitigating arguments on the internet, that's always a healthy thing to do, right? Well, I normally have the heat up very high because it's winter in Ottawa and it's very cold. But it is a little intense. So, why don't I fast forward in the game? I normally I'm willing to. I kind of like the mental rest in between. I tend to go between normal and pause rather than like blast and pause. I just kind of try. I generally don't like sort of. I try to avoid the MTV style of playing some games. I used to do that in Crusader Kings all the time, and I try to keep a more common path, a more consistent path. Why, thank you, Lady Dow. Very single, Lady Dow. Yes, for anybody willing to open applications, feel free to. Oh, here we go. So, you seem to be attempting to make the claim that more profit or revenue per dollar spent equals better games, and that's a purely stupid thing to claim. You're talking about things being sold to the masses, which mostly has to do with marketing, not quality of the product. Also, in general, good business is not the thing as good games, and that applies to all fields in general. So, most of you folks have read the EA article, and I deal with that pretty clearly. Like, there is the indication in terms of how much is being spent, because they are a company that makes games, and generally we say that if companies spend little and generate again, if they're spending a little bit and they're generating a product that lots of people want to buy, we say that they're successful companies and they're good at what they do. So then we say, okay, well, what about quality? Because again, the dollar measure, so by that measure, Adam Sandler in the 1990s and 2000s is probably one of the greatest actors to have ever lived, because his Adam Sandler movies do not cost a lot to make, and they make hundreds of millions of dollars. But it's clear that this is not the sort of thing that people are thinking about when they think of cinema. Now, I'm also going to say there's lots of people who laugh at Adam Sandler movies, so it may not exactly be my sort of a thing, But, like, this is one of the reasons, like, I think critics hate comedy because it's really hard to argue with laughter. Like, if somebody is laughing at a comedy, it's sort of done the thing that it needed to do, even if it was not a good comedy. What did this turn into? Mild flirtation? That's going to become an article on BuzzFeed. Is this my EA article? Or, sorry, I'm losing track. So, like, this is the thing. Like, I am a massive film snob. I don't want to say that Adam Sandler movies are successful or good at what they do or whatever, but I'd be stupid to say that, there is not there are not some people who've made some really smart bets on people willing to go back and watch his type of movies. Let's go back to the Lodge of the Sage Knight. Nope, glimmering. I really would have liked the pulsing airs for summoning, but my emotions run higher than usual. There'll always be things that I'll never understand, and those things will always be precious. But just now, I am closer to them. I recall my dream. This was the Lodge of the Blue... this was the Lodge of Blue Silk, flapping in the winds of the bounds at the Mansis edge. And here was its mistress, who welcomed me as she welcomes all travelers. Company is nice, she confided, but I still miss my Christopher. 10 years. 10 years and not enough. But we could not have been long together, not without touching each other. And you know what occurs when a man long lies with a long woman. Or perhaps you don't. I hope you don't. I won't tell you, just in case. Just in case. I will give you a tiny gift. Yeah, I mean, I know there's a lot of people who will want to pretend that there's an objective measure of quality on these things, but obviously there usually isn't. But yeah, so that particular article winds up going from, so it does start with the financial, because I actually think that that's an important measure, especially for a company like Electronic Arts. It's also the measure by which this is the other thing too, is like, go ahead and take a look at the criticisms of Electronic Arts, and you point to me the ones that are not talking about dollars and cents. There seem to be a lot of people who are really willing to jump on the sort of stuff that's like, oh, Battlefield 5 is selling less than it was expected. Of course, conveniently saying, never presenting something like what the number of units that it should have sold, because they don't know, and the answer is always going to be, less than what it sold, or more than what it sold right now. That's the only ever honest answer. So essentially, people are really willing to point out financial success when it suits them. The Kotaku in Action crowd will crow about the fact that Kingdom Come Deliverance was a, highly Google Trends searched game, but they'll maybe ignore the ones that were Google Trends searched higher than Kingdom Come Deliverance because it doesn't fit their particular story. When it comes to dollars, if something they don't like doesn't seem to be financially successful, obviously that's the only thing that matters, and then when their favorite doesn't turn around, all of a sudden we're going to start talking about, Metacritic or whatever. This is the big thing, that I made an effort to engage with that as far as I could in that article, but you're never going to make those people happy, and, it's debatable as to whether or not you should try. But I also think it's rather unfair to take that article and then turn around and say that what I'm arguing is that dollars equals quality. And I don't think that's a fault of mine at this point. I think I've been as clear as I can on the in that article as I could. Anyways, what's a man long and a long woman? The long are a specific type. Actually, the new DLC will deal with the long more, but a long is a specific It is. Let me think about how I can. So, just like you have things like hours, and I'm just trying to think of some of the other, terms, but they're not coming. Okay, there's basically there's a hierarchy in terms of creatures or entities that exist in Cultist Simulator, and they're always just hinted at in terms of the game. And there are some things that I am familiar with, and some of them I'm less familiar with. The long, I think I kind of know, but I'm not confident enough in to give you a definitive answer on stream. But it would be long is something that you yourself could become. Anyway, sorry, I'm really starting to come apart at the seams, so I will do one more Forbidden Epic. We've got, did I even read this? A tiny city of patched tents around a whitewashed farm. Hunched performers shiver in the dripping rain. Frau Grunwald has devoted her considerable fortune to the maintenance of this institution. Who knows why? The circus performers dislike trespassers behind the scenes. I found somebody who may... Oh. What's I got? Oh, so I will actually run out the notoriety. That'll give us a good thing to end on then. The hinter do not indulge themselves with showy entrances. A living gaze will shatter them. I know it's here, and that's enough for now. So I don't think that'll be enough to get us through our exploration. Okay, Jim did a better explanation than I did. I have indeed. Let's go back to the Lodge of the Sage Knight. I really wanted that. I've learned something that will earn me a favor once only. Last night, I dreamt of a blue silk pavilion overlooking the cloudy labyrinth of the Bounds. I listened to the mistress of the place speak of other visitors. The Suppression Bureau come here. Did you know that? I think that they hope to recruit me as an ally. She snorts derisively. After what they tried to do to Christopher. But their folly is your fortune. I will tell you something that may help you if the Bureau ever troubles you. Nope, you can hear my phone telling me I need to go to sleep. So, yeah, one of the things actually that I'm running into that I'm bad at. So one thing that I'm not good at in terms of Cultist Simulator is I'm trying to distinguish. So I'm really bad when I have a fragment of knowledge, but I can't quite get sort of the intermediate steps. So clearly we've got long, we've got who you are. But I'm trying to sort of figure out if and what any intermediate steps are, because I don't know if Teresa counts as a long. I don't think she is. But then she did say we can be long together, so that already throws that. Like, this is the one that I've not quite been able to put my finger on, and I'm probably just not able to. It's not something that I've probably put enough thought into, but so I'm not sure if there is something in between the two, or if I've just not been paying attention and it was really clearly sorted out in one of the books somewhere. So There's greater knowledge, but you're not a different category of thing between here and becoming a long near as I can tell. Yeah, well, this is the big challenge for me. Is I normally don't like spoilers, but there'll be obviously there's some dialogue going on in chat. But tell you what, I have been feeling worse and worse throughout the game. So here's what I'll do. I think I'm going to sort of abruptly end it here, and I apologize for doing that. But I've got my exploration done. There's going to be one more here. I did manage to get an hour and 40. I originally thought I was just going to do the hour, so I will leave it here, and I will come up with somebody to host. But if you would like to discuss the lore while I'm not here, so I don't get any kind of spoilers or anything along those lines, that probably seems to be the best way to handle those two. But I really am sorry, guys. I wanted to make sure that I did a stream today. I know this was kind of rambly and I didn't get a whole lot done, but especially I really shouldn't be bringing up the EA stuff. I know I constantly go on about it during Battlefield, and that it just happens to be is something that came up on Twitter recently, but I'll save it for a blog in terms of when and why I think dollars are a good measure. But suffice to say, I think you guys roughly know, I like weird little games like Cultist Simulator and Nowhere Profit and things like that. So obviously I don't live like I look at budget and then go to the left. But anyways, I kind of blew it. I hope you were at least diverted for the past hour and a bit. I'll make sure that next week I am a little bit better off. And sorry, where else were we? Teresa's maybe. Well, sorry, I do know, if for what it's worth, Jim the Eternal. Sorry, I think I just figured out what you were saying here. Teresa, I know you can summon her in the game. I have beaten it before. But yeah, I guess the big one for me is that I didn't think you could summon Long is the source of my confusion. But anyways, we can all chat about the game when I'm gone, and I'll move on. And the blue belt, thank you very much for your thank you. And everybody, I know there's a lot of people who are here at the moment, and I'm feeling increasingly worse over ending in this way, but I gotta go. For those of you who do want to be watching the other things, just a quick, here's the rough plan. Keep an eye on Twitter in case things don't turn out this way. Friday we'll be doing the last two Battlefield stories. That will include the Canadian stories. Monday we'll be back to either Crusader Kings or Stellaris. I haven't figured it out. I might do Stellaris though, because I had to put it off while I was waiting for the new mouse. And then obviously next Wednesday we'll be back to Cultist Simulator. As always, if I don't think things are going to turn out, I'll announce that on Twitter. For those of you who like watching the Elder Scrolls stuff, I've been running into some problems with the game, just in terms of not figuring out how certain things work. So the one that was done this afternoon, but I recorded yesterday, ended because I couldn't figure out how some elevators worked. And I'm generally kind of figuring these things out as they go by, but it feels like I'm always getting stuck on something inside the game. So I might start using some cheats if I can't figure them out. I hate doing that in games. But every Tuesday there will still be the Elder Scrolls. I am actually really enjoying Daggerfall. So it'll probably be a nice long series that we do. And I do want to do another one of those Surviving Mars, sort of relaxing, just speaking in a very soft tone. But essentially tonight the option was to record one of those or to do Cultist Simulator, and I ultimately chose to do this. So thank you everyone for your support. I hope you all had a very nice Christmas, and let's find somebody to host. I think I will... Who do we have here? There's not a lot of people on right now, so let's host Kilgore Trout. He's currently playing Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver, so... if you want to come along, the raid messages, we're tired of system talk, heard this place was better. If you just want to stay and talk about Cultist Simulator lore, that's fine too. If you want, come up with your own rules for spoilers, I won't be paying attention. But I need to get myself sorted out, especially because I need to be at work early tomorrow. So have a lovely evening, and I will see you all on Friday at the latest. Thank you all.